You know, every great business starts with an idea. But what's the real difference between a dream and a successful company? Well, a lot of the time, it comes down to understanding the true cost of doing business. Today, we're going to break down the entire theory of cost by following one entrepreneur's journey, from a simple garage startup all the way to a factory empire.
So, we'll be following our entrepreneur, Rohan, through 5 really crucial stages. We'll start with the basics, accounting versus economic costs, and then take it all the way to understanding the awesome power of scale. Let's jump right in.
All right, first things first, Rohan needs a business plan. And the absolute foundation of any good plan is understanding what your costs truly are. And that means you've got to look beyond just the checks you write to see the full picture, the one an economist sees.
Now, most of us think of costs in accounting terms, right? It's the money you actually spend, on salaries, materials, rent. These are called explicit costs. But an economist, well, they see a much bigger picture. The economic cost includes all of that, plus these hidden or implicit costs that really show you the true price of any decision.
So what on earth are these implicit costs? They're basically the hidden, non-cash costs of using stuff you already own. The easiest way to think about it is this. It's the income you are giving up by using your own resources for your business instead of for something else.
Let's make this super clear by looking at Rohan's situation. He's got a garage he can use, and he's got some savings put away. Now, since he's not writing a check to a landlord or getting a loan from a bank, you might think, hey, these are free. But are they really?
And that very question leads us straight to one of the most important ideas in all of economics, opportunity cost. It's the value of the road not taken. See, every time you make a choice, you're automatically giving up the chance to do something else. And that something else has a value. That's its opportunity cost.
So, let's answer our question. Are Rohan's resources free? No way. Not even close. The opportunity cost of using his garage is the rent money he's not collecting from a tenant. The opportunity cost of using his savings is the interest he's not earning from the bank. These are his implicit costs. And it's only when he adds these to his cash expenses that he really understands the true economic cost of his new venture.
Okay, so Rohan now gets the full picture of his costs. Let's get him geared up with the essential vocabulary he's gonna need to make smart decisions every single day.
So managers are always dealing with 2 very different kinds of costs. Incremental costs are all about the future. They're the extra cost of making a new decision. But sunk costs, they're all about the past. It's money that's already been spent and is gone forever, no matter what you decide to do next.
And this is such a critical lesson. It is so easy to fall into what they call the sunk cost trap, where you think, oh man, I've already spent so much money on this, I have to keep going. But rational, smart decision-making means you have to ignore the money that's already gone. The only thing that matters is the future cost and the future benefit of your very next move.
Okay, so let's do a quick recap of what we've covered. To make really solid business judgments, Rohan has to think like an economist. He's got to always think about the value of the next best thing he could be doing. And he can never, ever let money he's already spent trick him into making bad decisions for the future. This is the absolute bedrock of his strategy.
All right, Rohan is ready to roll. He's got his workshop, he's bought his materials, and he is making his first batch of handcrafted leather bags. This is what we call the short run in action. It's any period of time where at least one of his inputs, like the size of his workshop, is totally fixed.
Okay, let's look at how his costs break down here. His rent is 10,000 rupees. That's a fixed cost. He has to pay that whether he makes 10 bags or 100 bags. But his variable costs, like the leather he uses, go up with every single bag he makes. So his total cost is just those 2 added together. Pretty simple. Now things get interesting when we look at this on a per bag basis. As Rohan makes more and more bags, his average fixed cost just keeps falling because he's spreading that 10,000 rupee rent over more and more units. But his average variable cost and his average total cost, they usually follow this U-shape. They fall at first because he's getting more efficient, but then they start to rise as he really pushes his workshop to its limits.
And this brings us to what is honestly probably the most important cost concept for making good decisions: marginal cost. This isn't the average. This is the specific extra cost of producing the very next item. If Rohan is trying to decide whether to make that 101st bag, he needs to know its marginal cost.
And here's the golden rule that explains that U-shape we saw. Think about your grades in a class.
If your score on the next test, your marginal grade, is lower than your overall average, your average gets pulled down, right? If your test score is higher, your average gets pulled up. Costs work exactly the same way. And that's why the marginal cost curve always intersects the average cost curve at its lowest possible point.
So, to sum up the short run, Rohan is stuck working with at least one fixed factor, like his workshop. His total cost is just his fixed costs plus his variable costs. And his per unit costs are all about managing those U-shaped average and marginal cost curves to find that sweet spot of production. Okay, let's hit the fast forward button. Rohan's bags are a smash hit. I mean, orders are pouring in and his tiny workshop just can't keep up. It's time to think bigger. Welcome to the long run. This is the planning horizon where absolutely everything, including the size of the factory itself, can be changed.
This is the ultimate strategic question for any business that's growing. I mean, he could build a medium-sized factory or he could build a massive one. How does he choose the perfect size to meet demand in the future without letting his costs per bag spiral out of control?
The answer to that question is in the long-run average cost curve. You can think of it like a master blueprint for growth. Every single point on this curve shows Rohan the most efficient, lowest cost factory size for any given level of production he wants to hit. They call it the envelope curve because it literally wraps around or envelops all of his possible short-run factory options.
So what gives that long-run curve its distinctive U-shape? Why is it that getting bigger often means getting cheaper, at least at first? Well, the answer lies in the incredible power of what we call economies of scale.
See, as Rohan's company gets bigger, it gets all these internal benefits that his little workshop just couldn't. He can finally afford specialized, high-efficiency machinery. He can hire a dedicated sales manager, a finance expert. He can buy leather in huge quantities and get massive bulk discounts. And, banks are a lot happier to give great loans to a bigger, more established company. All this stuff drives his average cost per bag way down. But the benefits don't just come from inside his own company. As the entire industry grows, let's imagine a leather hub like Agra, external economies start to pop up. A whole pool of skilled leather workers develop in the area. Specialized suppliers of buckles and dyes and tools set up shop right nearby. The local government might even build better roads just to support the industry. All of this creates an ecosystem that lowers costs for Rohan and all of his competitors too. But, growth can't just be limitless. We've seen how economies of scale can make a business way more efficient as it grows. But what happens when a company just gets too big? This is where diseconomies of scale, things like communication breakdowns, too much bureaucracy, can start to creep in, causing those average costs to start rising again. And it leaves every successful founder with the ultimate question: what is the perfect size for my business?